Now in this lesson the fun part begins, setting up a Ubuntu server. On the picture you see here is the startup screen for a Hewlett-Packard computer. It's just a picture and the quality of the picture is pretty bad. It's basically because the startup screen is always in a very bad resolution. But this startup screen is only there for a few seconds. If you have a Dell computer or any other type of a computer, you'll probably see something different here. You might see Dell or something like that. I have a Dell computer, so I see Dell. And here you can see at the bottom, and sometimes it's somewhere up here, which buttons you can press to go into different menus. Diagnostic, F9, F11 system recovery, F10 setup, and for our purposes we need to go to the boot menu. And we press escape to go to boot menu if you're on a Hewlett-Packard computer. Lots of computers, or most computers I've been setting up servers on, like Dell, use F12. And because this screen is only there for 3 or 4 seconds, depending on how fast your computer is, you have to press F12 a few times when turning on the computer, and then it will boot into a menu where you can choose if the computer is supposed to boot or start from a CD or the hard drive or a USB stick. And your computer might have network card or something like that, but you just have to choose the right one. And you do not want to choose the hard drive, because if you choose the hard drive, it's just going to start up like normally. If you have an operating system, it's going to show the operating system. But we are going to be setting up a server, so you have to choose the USB stick if you followed the lesson before using a USB stick. But if you're using a CD, you choose CD as your startup. Soon as that's done, it takes a while for the start to load up. You should see this screen. And this is the installation screen for Ubuntu. And you can see here, these are just the languages that you can choose while setting up. Like for me, I'm Icelandic, so I could choose Íslenska. But I'm not going to. This is supposed to be international for everyone. So I'll choose English. And I'll just choose it and press enter. And now it says install Ubuntu server. And that's exactly what I'm going to choose. Again, this is what language I want to use while I'm doing the installation process. And I choose English again. And here it's the where am I? And for this purpose I'm going to choose United Kingdom. And detect keyboard layout, I'm going to choose no, but you can do that. Normally it will detect it, what settings you have, but I'll choose no. And I am going to choose an Icelandic keyboard. Icelandic keyboard is almost the same as a United Kingdom, except we have a few more letters. So I'll choose Icelandic, and again Icelandic. And now we're just waiting for everything to load. And I'm going to go through this without stopping. I'm not going to skip through anything. I want you to see the whole process. And you can see it's setting up all kinds of different things. There it's setting up if you have a IP6. And okay, now it's the name of your host. So if you have a huge network or just home network, doesn't really matter, and and you want to find this computer on the network, you might want to call it something that makes it easy for you to find. So for this, I'm going to put Moodle Creator. I'm using my arrow keys. So I press down, and that chooses continue, and press enter. And a full name of the new user. I'll just type in my name. And down. And username for my account. And I'm just going to have Runar as well. It's fine. And a password. I'll recommend you choose something that, is hard to figure out. But I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press down and continue. And please do not use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if it's a working server. And use uppercase and lowercase and some symbols, ampersand or something like that. It's a good idea, or % sign or something which makes it harder for people to break into your server. And like you can see here, I chose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it is recommending for me to go back and choose a different password. But they'll ask me use weak password, and I'm going to use the weak password, but please do not. And here we have, if we want to encrypt the home directory. And it's always a good idea to encrypt directories. So I'm going to choose yes. And as you can see, based on your present physical location, your time zone is at Atlantic Reykjavik. Is this correct? I'll choose yes. And here you can choose lots of things. As you can see, it's use entire disk or guided, use entire disk and set up LVM. So it's kind of up to you if you're setting up lots of system and you're going to be booting up a different system. But if you're going to be running Moodle for a long time, then you probably do not want to set up a part of your hard drive. Let's face it, if you're setting up a server on a computer, you're not going to be using that computer for other purposes. Or at least that's not what I would recommend. So I'll choose guided, and I'm going to use the entire disk. And it sees my disk, but you might have more than one hard drive in your computer. So make sure that you choose the correct hard drive. But normally they'll recognize what hard drive you're going to be using. A good idea is to take a note of the size of the hard drive that you have, because like you can see there, it says 8.6 gigabytes, and I know my hard drive is 8.6, so if you have 3 or 4 hard drives and the one that you're going to be setting up the server on is 120 gigs and you have another one 240, it's a good way to remember is to remember the size. And I press enter, and now it's just asking me if I want to continue and make the changes I have chosen and write them to the disk. And I'm going to say yes, and now it's copying all the data to the disk. So there's no turning back when you've pressed yes, allowing this to happen. This is such a huge part in the setup of Moodle, and that's the reason why I'm keeping this probably longer than you would see in many tutorials where they'll just kind of rush you through it. And it's such an important decision to set up a server that this lesson is only a few minutes anyways. Now it's asking if we have a proxy server. If we have another server somewhere which is to block traffic where we are, but if you're setting this up for the first time, you're probably not thinking about proxy servers. And I think if you are going to be thinking about putting a proxy server, I recommend that you learn about proxy server and then go through this lesson if you're going to be using one. So it's just blank and continue. Now it's configuring apt, which is the repository. Linux has a huge repository, and apt is something that which is a Debian based, used on Ubuntu servers a lot. So you'll type apt-get if you're going to get like PHP. It will be shown in a later lesson. If you have a Red Hat type, it will be yum. Now we're at the stage where it's installing the basic software it needs. And now it's asking us if we want to update automatically. And I'm going to choose no automatic updates because I think it's there are so many things which can happen during updates. I really recommend putting no automatic updates because otherwise it can be updating while somebody's taking a test somewhere. There's an exam going on in a classroom somewhere and everybody's using Moodle for that exam. So it's dangerous, so I'll press no. And now it's asking me what type of a server we want to be installing. And you can choose here LAMP. That's a Linux Apache MySQL PHP server. I'm not going to be using that because this sets up everything to default. We want to make a specialized setup for Moodle with their recommended settings. So it's going to be a manual package selection. And I pressed enter, of course. Okay. Now we see it wants to install a bootloader on the hard drive. And yes, we want to because otherwise it will not boot directly into the operating system. So yes again. As you can see, most of what I do is just accepting what Ubuntu is suggesting for me, so that's easy. And now it's finishing the installation, so we're almost done. And this will probably be one of the longest tutorials. Now you can see we're all done. The installation is complete. So if you're going to be turning off your computer right now and you want to boot into the system, you need to remove the CD or remove the USB stick. So it's a good idea to remove it now and then pressing continue. And then it will boot directly into Ubuntu. And that's it for this lesson.